Hi folks, Bryant here with The Open Range. The Open Range is a place where we have open discussion about a wide range of topics. In today's topic, I'm going to talk about reading and kind of talk about some of the things that I've been reading recently and a little bit of the benefits of reading regularly. And then I want to hear from y'all and see what you guys have been reading. This week has been kind of odd, so I've only got one video in. This week I'll be back to my normal two videos a week schedule next week, with some good topics coming up that I need to do some research on. So we'll just jump right into it. Reading. So right now I'm reading two books. Whenever I get a chance to sit down and do it. The first book is called On Trails by Robert Moore, and it's an interesting book talking about trails and roads and paths and things, not just physical paths. So the author went through hiking on the Appalachian Trail, and he started thinking about where that path would take him, who had traveled that path before, and then he started thinking about other trails and pathways and roadways and means of travel that have happened in the past and in the current and in the future, and that goes, that expands all the way into information paths, phone lines, and the internet and things like that. So it's pretty fascinating book to look at how things and information and ideas and people have traveled and what that has meant for developing cultures and for spreading ideas and for expanding things and stuff like that. So it's a pretty interesting book. I'm looking forward to getting through the rest of it and finishing this one off. And then I also like to read a bit of fiction. And one of my favorite authors, this is the last book, not chronologically, but it's the last book that I have to read in the Dirk Pitt series. And this is a Clive Cussler book, Treasure. Man, I really like these. Basically because Dirk Pitt's like an Indiana Jones, James Bond cross, and he's got a huge car collection of vintage cars, and that's pretty cool. So these books really spark my imagination, and I enjoy picturing the places where they're going and places that they've been and things that they're seeing. And the nice thing about these books is that although they are fiction, they're based somewhat on real places and real things that have happened in real life, then they're expanded upon. Like one of the stories was about the Titanic and things like that. Now, what happened in the story hasn't happened in real life. They actually brought the Titanic up from the bottom of the ocean and sailed it back into New York to be restored or what have you. But it's nice to use your imagination and read these fictional stories and picture what's going on in your mind. I enjoy doing that. I do. It's a good chance to get away from the stresses of life and whatnot. Read a book and expand upon that. I also like to read some journal type things on mechanical stuff, popular science type articles, things about the universe and science and physics and stuff like that. I think that's kind of interesting to read as well. But those are the things that interest me, so I like to read about them. I think books are important, and reading in general is important. It helps expand your vocabulary. It helps to teach you new things, new words, new ideas. Whether you're reading fiction or nonfiction, it really doesn't matter as long as you're reading. It helps keep your brain active and working, which is good because it seems that more and more frequently these days, people are, as they age, seem to be losing grips with their mind. And if you keep your mind sharp by doing puzzles and by reading and things like that, I think that's important mental health for you. It gives you a chance to stretch your imagination and to travel to places without actually having to go there. It may give you the interest to go to those places in real life. If you read something like a travel blog or something like that, that may direct you to go to those places and go travel. So reading is really important in people's lives, I think, and I think that if you don't read, you should. Start with anything that's entertaining to you. Read for entertainment. Turn off the TV for a while and read 15, 20 minutes a day. I think you'll find a strong benefit in it. Might lower your blood pressure some, and kind of help reduce some of the stresses of life that come in on you. By taking a little while to dive into the pages of a book that somebody imagined up or didn't, if it's a nonfiction work, but it'll give you some insight into some things that maybe you hadn't thought about before, or you did think about some and you want to read some things that are in line with your ideas as well. I mean, there's so much out there to read, billions and billions of books that you can read, and journal articles and technical articles and things like that. There's something out there for everybody to read, or go read a picture book if you want. There's nothing wrong with that either. But it's pretty short topic. I think reading's important. I'd like to see what you guys are reading. Maybe I'll find a new book. Like I said, this is the last book in this series with this character, and so I'm gonna need a new one pretty soon, and I'm debating on whether I'm going to stick with the same author. He's authored quite a few other series of books. I really like his writing style. It's fairly easy to read. It's a big book, lots of pages, but it goes by pretty quick. It's pretty action-packed, so to speak. That said, seeing books turned into movies, you kind of have to be careful doing that, because you can get a lot more in depth in here, and you have to be willing to let go of the book for the movie, in that the movie's only going to be 2 hours long, 2 or 3 hours long max, and so they can't fit all of this information into that time frame. So you have to be willing to accept that some of the things are not going to be the same. That's usually why the book is better than the movie, and that's what you hear. Oh, the book is way better than the movie. Some books and movies that were, on their own accord, I think fairly equal. One in particular I read not too long ago was The Martian, and that was made into the movie with Matt Damon, and where he was stranded on Mars and had to learn how to survive and all of that kind of stuff. I really like that movie. I'm a sci-fi nerd, so I thought that was pretty cool. And then I really enjoyed the book. The book went into a lot more in depth, but I think the movie stayed fairly true to the book, and I thought it was a good adaptation, I think. And I appreciate it. I appreciate people taking these books, especially these these fiction works, and turning them into movies, because then you get to see what your mind was imagining and see if it's the same as how someone else imagined it. That's pretty neat. I like that, being able to do that. I think your imagination is a wonderful tool. I think your brain is an amazing piece of equipment that we all have and that we can all use, and it can take us to some very interesting places. So, nurture that and read things that are interesting to you, and let me know what you're reading. Like I said, I might find something new that I haven't read yet that I'd like to read, and I might get into, and I'll tell you more about what I read if you want to see or hear about that. A lot of action type stuff and a lot of fiction is mostly what I have. Some nonfiction stuff, and then some technical stuff. I enjoy reading, but reading's good. Reading's good for everybody. Everybody should do it. That's really all I have to say about that. So, yeah, let me know what you think. Thanks for joining me here on the Open Range. Remember to like, share, and subscribe these videos. I try to put them out as frequently as I can. I try to do 2 a week. This week, I'm sorry I missed 1 this week, but next week I'll get back to my regularly scheduled program, and we'll go from there. So, yeah, thanks again for joining me here on the Open Range. Tell me what you read. Go read a book.